How can mechanical, electrical, and plumbing contractors capitalize on the federal 2030 emissions reduction plan? That was the motivation behind a special panel discussion, The Road to 2030: Trades Contractors and the Federal 2030 Emissions Reduction Plan, hosted by Electrical Business and HPAC magazines. As an addendum to that conversation, we've invited subject matter experts Harold Ruckpaul and Pushpinder Rana of Eaton and Mitsubishi Electric Heating and Cooling, respectively, to join us for a follow-up discussion. Harold serves as Director, Strategic Alliances, Electrical Engineering Services and Systems with Eaton Corp., while Rana serves as Senior Manager, Commercial Products and Industry Relations, HVAC Division, with Mitsubishi Electric Sales Canada, Inc. So this is the first emissions reduction plan issued under the Canadian Net Zero Emissions Accountability Act. Harold, before I go any further, when it comes to emissions reductions, the move to net zero, is this a thing or is it a passing fancy?
No, it's not a fad or a passing fancy. I think the train has left the station proverbially. The When you look at corporate governance annual reports from our largest companies, you look at investor behavior, and you look at the behavior of our local customers, ESG goals are a key part of their actions. There's definitely, as part of this energy transition, a move towards sustainability, carbon reduction, et cetera. So absolutely not a fad.
And now, Rana, I'd like to turn to you with the same question, coming at it from the Mitsubishi and mechanical perspective. Is this move toward net zero emissions reductions, from your perspective, passing fancy or something that's bona fide and we need to pay attention to?
It looks like there's a big objective ahead of us. We are shown a kind of big picture that collectively we are heading towards, the reduction by 2030 and all that. But at the same time, I also believe that we are not seeing any concrete steps at the federal level, or nothing we are really hearing from the policymakers. That creates a lot of anxiety or even panic, because then we need time to make sure our lineup is ready to meet whatever directives or policies would be set. To me, in my observation, it seems that industry is aware of it and people are trying to connect the dots. But unless the real policymakers, the regulators, they become active and they show us the steps, I think we don't see much meat on the bone yet. But more we need to hear is what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. And that should happen at a very high level so that whole industry can be engaged and we can help in the implementation. So that has been my observation.
So it sounds like we definitely need more people, more stakeholders talking to each other. There might still be too many silos, too many vacuums to really
Correct.
move things forward, at least to come close to some of these timelines that government has given to us. I want to redirect a little bit because a few of our panelists in part one from the road to 2030 also noted that industry itself needs to do a better job at selling the solutions that will get us closer to net zero. Rana, you had mentioned, time for the solutions themselves, but also time to get these solutions into the minds of people, into the mind of the market. Uh, so, Rana, when it comes to a client who is solely focused on installed cost of whatever the solution is, how do we reframe the conversation to look at it as a life cycle cost? How do we explain in simple terms something like possible carbon pricing impacts? How do we retrain our sales force to sell these new technologies? And Ren, I'll continue with you, and then I'll pass that over to Harold.
Certainly, Anthony, again, a good question. Now, as a manufacturer, not only Mitsubishi, I mean, I would speak for even most of key manufacturer. I think they have taken a huge responsibility cost on them in terms of a lot of effort being done on training programs. Now, that's the job we are doing solely as a manufacturer: the cost, the time, the effort, the training centers, the training equipment is all on us. Again, I'm going back to my key message of the disconnect. None of these training programs are supported by governments. Also, part of ongoing effort is creating these case studies, which really help people to get more awareness. You know what, the initial cost or the capital expense shouldn't be the only factor. You're looking at the total cost of ownership, the running cost, the maintenance cost, the initial cost, and that's where you calculate your break even, your paybacks, and all that. That's again, Anthony, is an ongoing effort. We work to create these case studies. We share these case studies in lunch and learn sessions, in our trainings and all that. That really helps.
Very good. Now, Harold, I want to turn to you because you've been silent too long. So I want to get your take. There's a lot of stuff there that Rana brought up, but let me start with the first question, if you will. Um, Talking about our panelists from part one, noting that industry uh, needs to or can do a better job at selling some of these really modern advanced solutions that will get us closer to net zero. And where you are in your place with Eaton, Harold, I mean, you're dealing with a lot of interesting, cool stuff now. Your title, hang on, you have the new title. There we go, Director of Distributed Energy Resources. Stuff like that is a big thing and being talked about today in the electrical space. How are those conversations going? How is Eaton and Eaton staff, how are they selling these solutions? And getting to what Rana was talking about, is the selling and discussion of these solutions, installed cost, life cycle cost, being confounded by policies that differ here? Uh, I want to hear from you on this, Harold.
Sure, sure. So this is sort of a multi-part response because there's a lot canned into that question, quite frankly. And I view this as a sales question. I mean, if I break your question down to its lowest common denominator, how do we get past purely our clients looking at installed cost? So step one is a well-armed organization with as many advocates out there as we can. So certainly, as previously stated, we invest a lot of time in training consultants, in having highly qualified, therefore useful application engineers to support system design. So that's the first piece of it. The second piece of it is, look, at the end of the day, there has to be a compelling value proposition. So we need to check as many boxes as possible to help move the decision off of purely the final number at the bottom of the proposal page. So we need to look at providing payback analysis. We need to look at, and I mentioned ESG goals earlier in our conversation as we began this session. Are we supporting energy savings? But that's one piece, because that's going to help the project pay its way. But the second piece is, what else are we doing? Are we improving the output of the customer because we're providing better power quality, or more resilient power, or more flexible power, and providing additional access to information that they did not have prior to the effort? Therefore, there's additional value there. I would be terrified if I've got to wait for the government to force someone to buy my product. And I'll give you a very down-to-earth example. I have a geothermal heat pump. It was not the cheapest path to heating and cooling my home. But when I looked at the advantages and the efficiency, it became a no-brainer personal decision for me. So it would be wonderful if there was some form of incentive that paid for that. But at the end of the day, I made it what I felt was an informed decision. And I'm not a mechanical guy. I'm certainly electrical. But when I looked on paper at my options and what it was going to be like to live with the installation after the fact, it became a no-brainer. So I think we really need to put some effort into that, into checking as many boxes as we can with a proposal.
You brought up a couple of excellent points there. I like the fact that no one should be waiting on government if there's a good, correct, excellent technology with the value that you're talking about, with perhaps improving performance in somebody's facilities. We shouldn't wait on government. This is a good thing, and we should talk about it and sell it as such. But I am also curious. I don't know if Rana should plug his ears or not, but whose geothermal heat pump did you end up getting?
I think I'll stay away from that.
I'm curious because I've read about this and reported on it. Other people have written about it, and that has to do with skilled technicians. So we have technologies both on the electrical side, mechanical side. Some might just be improvements on what was there. Some things might be a completely brand new way of looking at things and dealing with things. So Harold, I'll turn to you first. When it comes to trained technicians for the solutions of tomorrow, how is industry, how is Eaton helping to train or retrain our skilled labor pool to install and service these solutions of tomorrow?
So there's a couple of different ways, and it's a little bit complicated by the fact that electrical safety and training and certifications and recertifications are really a critical part of what our technicians and field representatives are doing on a daily basis. So we have a very, very robust internal program. It is the people that head it up are part of the strategic leadership team for our division. And we have training managers and directors, and we have annual recertification programs. We have a mandatory classroom and then practical training curriculum that all new hires have to go through. And part of that is, of course, safety focused, the EHS component of it. And then the secondary component of that is being able to navigate your way around potentially energized electrical equipment at our customers' locations, and getting to know the nuances of Eaton branded circuit breakers versus brand X, and the testing procedures and things of that nature. The other component of it is providing meaningful work, and recruitment and retention, especially post-pandemic, are no longer just a human resources function. It's really recruitment and retention is an all hands on deck process that we're in. And so we have a variety of tools that our employees can access to stay up to date on our latest technology, as well as an internal jobs market, so to speak, and quite a bit of effort goes into career planning with our individuals' leaders around making sure that the employment experience is meaningful. They want to stay with Eaton, and they're looking to advance their career. And then externally, we want contractors to, of course, buy and install Eaton products. It's pretty simple. We have programs like our ECCN network, where we invest time in assisting our channel partners and our contractors in understanding our products and working with them to make the installation experience as comfortable as possible, and hopefully convert them to our brand and keep them supporting it. So there's a sort of an internal component as well as an external.
Now, before I leave you, Harold, and move over to Rana, in looking at our colleges, our union halls, the ones who are training up the next generation of electrical professionals, electricians, possibly electrical contractors. Uh, do you think they are um, keeping their finger on the pulse of what is going on today, where these new technologies are going? Do you think they're preparing the next generation adequately?
I have to say yes, because I'm looking at the amount of investment we and other companies in our space are investing in academic partnerships. You know, Eaton is a significant supporter of McMaster's research, for example, and we have um, provided assistance and funding for certain lab activities around electric vehicles, for example. And so, yes, I do think they are, but it's incumbent upon industry to stay involved, and we certainly are. And then, you know, I'll pivot just a little bit to the whole recruitment side of this. We need more interest in underserved, maybe BIPOC. The BIPOC community might be a good example. Black, Indigenous, people of color. We need to generate interest in STEM with our youth. So we're doing things like providing scholarships in conjunction with organizations like ICE for Indigenous youth, both to provide an education, meaningful employment thereafter, and promote that interest in STEM.
It sounds like on the Eaton side, you're doing these doing these you're forming partnerships, alliances with educational institutions, with industry associations. I believe Eaton is a sponsor also in Electro Federation Canada scholarship
Yes.
program, and so but I like that you say that when it comes to recruitment and retention, it is an all hands on deck approach. It's not just an HR function. I like that. Now, Ren, I want to put the same question to you, looking at it from the mechanical space, in terms of skilled technicians and do we have enough skilled technicians? And thinking about what Jeremy Sager said in part one.
I don't think we have a sufficient number of trained refrigeration and air conditioning mechanics out there right now to service this change that's going to happen, speaking specifically to heating and cooling systems and buildings.
And he's also worried about substandard installations as well, if we don't have enough skilled people on the ground. So, in your experience in Mitsubishi Electric's experience, how does the skilled labor pool look like? How is Mitsubishi addressing it?
Now, I lead a team which is responsible to make sure we are providing all trainings to, contractors to consulting engineer. And I think that's the most acclaimed effort from Mitsubishi, because that's a very, very strong effort. We spend a lot of time and resources because we are doing routine trainings. This is happening almost every week, to be honest. And this is going on even before I joined Mitsubishi. So it's an ongoing effort. Uh, so our trainings, we provide multi-level of training, multi-levels, um, level 1, level 2, and each level has some incentive or benefits. But again, there is no end to it. It's an ongoing effort. We are doing in-person trainings. We are doing virtual trainings, depending upon the needs and all. In addition, we also have collaboration with local unions like local UA Local 787, which is a very big union of all the mechanical contractors. So there is a collaboration with them. They also run our training programs. Now, these training programs are on our existing product lineup and also for any upcoming technologies which will hit the market, and we want to make sure that people are trained in advance and it's going to be a smooth ride. I'll give you an example. We just launched a CO2 based air to water heating system, which is industry's first from a VRF manufacturer in a way. The onus automatically is on us to make sure that before these technologies hit the market, the contractors are trained in advance. So it's an ongoing effort. We have certified trainers. Some of trainers are doing it as their full-time job. We have a dedicated training center and showroom. People can come here, or we can even travel to all provinces, and we spend weeks, we spend days there, train their local people. They are certified, and they are supposed to come back after every 2 year or 3 year, depending upon the term, and they are trained again to make sure they are still up to date. They are doing everything. Now these contractors certainly learn a lot in their trade schools, but then they are manufacturer specific trainings, and also making sure there are no corner cuttings, there are no shortcuts being adopted. So it's about the installation, it's for the startup, it's for the troubleshooting, it's for the commissioning, it's about the servicing. We have all these different types of trainings which we run in routine for the contractors, and their incentives. Then we have our pool. For example, we recently created a new training program. It's called Citymati Summit, a program in which we pick elite group of contractors. But I certainly agree, the way this country is growing, the way our HVAC needs are growing, we often feel uh, we don't have enough technicians in the market. So that's a pool we have to create. And that's why it's an ongoing effort, not only by Mitsubishi. I think similar efforts are done by our competitors, because at the end of the day, we are also helping each other to make sure our industry is growing and we have adequate skilled manpower to serve the industry. For us, it's not just the cost of the warranty and all that, it's the customer inconvenience, which is a very sensitive, especially in a cold climate like Canada. Imagine your system is not working because of poor installation and all that, and it's minus 30 outdoor. That customer inconvenience is a huge pain point for any reputed manufacturer like Mitsubishi, and certainly for Harold. And the only way is you want to make sure that the right person has handled your product. So that's why it has to be a continuous effort.
It's good to hear that both organizations, either directly through association work and other partnerships, you guys are doing what you can to make sure
Certainly.
that we have that skilled labor pool out there to install and commission and service these installations down the road. I would now like to close the conversation. I provided a chart. It's the breakdown of Canada's greenhouse gas emissions by economic sector. So we see agriculture, we see buildings, heavy industry, transport, electricity, oil and gas, waste, and others. Rana, if I turn to you and you look at this chart, when it comes to the mechanical contractor, where do you see opportunities for them?
Now, this is more based on our exposure, where we fit, where we sell our product and all that. Certainly, I feel it's the building envelope where mechanical contractors have a huge fit, a huge role to play. Uh, I know the focus is mechanical contractor, but I think if we look at the total value chain, then there are more entities involved. Mechanical contractors certainly come more towards the end. I think to me, the start is certainly the consulting engineers, making sure they know what they are buying, how they're designing their buildings and projects, their load calculations are correct. Then it's easy for then mechanical contractor to make sure they follow what has been designed. If design is good, then their life is certainly going to be better. The other part is it's not a secret. Many times, the end user, they actually ask mechanical contractors to make recommendations. They don't know what they're buying. So it's a part of the trade. They can ask them, hey, what do you think? This is my need. What do you recommend? What company do you want to work for? What product you're going to pick? So if your mechanical contractors are well trained, well supported, well skilled, they're going to help customer making the right decision. So in a way, the onus is on mechanical contractors so that they are making the right recommendation. So it's the building, institutional, commercial, residential, where I believe mechanical contractors can certainly play a huge role, being the advisor, being the person, being the hands-on person, and also making sure product is serving the needs till its life cycle. So that's my opinion.
Now, Harold, same question to you, looking at it from the electrical sector. Where, as you look at this pie chart, agriculture, buildings, heavy industry, there's actually a dedicated one called electricity. So, as electrical or for an electrical contractor, and even those who specialize in high voltage contracting, looking at this chart, where do you see opportunities for those who want to, well, basically run with the emissions reductions ball?
Certainly, Ron's got it right. The building envelope, the electrification of buildings, whether they're commercial, institutional, universities, that whole mush, hospitals for that matter, all fall into that electrification envelope. Of course, that includes electrification of heating and cooling, which creates the mechanical opportunities, correct? So I see that as the low hanging fruit. I will also say there's a significant velocity in that space that we're seeing.
Now, can you point to, and Ren, I'll ask you this question as well after I ask it of Harold. Are there any particular solutions or technologies that excite you right now, Harold, that you're hoping electrical contractors and the end users they serve get excited about for their building spaces?
I'm excited about when we talk about EVCI, electric vehicle charging infrastructure. I'm excited about the CI side of EVCI. That is the charging infrastructure that's going to be necessary to have the power distribution capable of feeding those new and additional demands on the system. And that's going to create some really unique opportunities around managing distribution capacity, managing the size of systems, and innovative solutions where the system cannot be expanded to support that additional demand. So that's what keeps me excited.
And as fate would have it, at least on the federal level, Ottawa is throwing a ton of money at charging infrastructure. So, there's I think there's lots of opportunity there as well. I agree with you. Rand, I'll ask you the same question. So you've identified the building space, industrial, commercial, institutional, and the like. Are there any technology solutions that excite you and you're hoping mechanical contractors get excited about and want to share with their customers?
To be honest, Anthony, HVAC world is an exciting day every day. So there's something new on my way which really excites my day and keep me excited. But for sure, there are certain technologies. That's where HVAC is making huge advancements. A lot of things going on, and that's going beyond our traditional space comfort. I mean, heating and cooling. I'm not really going to touch on those things because that's the obvious. But I'm talking about using HVAC system for hot water supply, for example. That's a huge shift in the market where I believe HVAC will have a lot of contribution. Technologies are already available, and I'm aware more are on the way. So I see HVAC will play a huge role in both domains for your space comfort as well as providing your hot water for domestic or for space heating, as well as different application. On top of that, there's a very unique, very excellent product which is on the way. It's called hybrid VRF system, which is a combination of your hydronic side and the VRF side, it's going to hit the market this year. It's on the way, has been successful in Europe and many other countries. So finally, it's entering North America. I expect by year end, we'll see HVRF being sold in Canada, which is a unique technology. We are raising the bar, another huge leap taken in the HVAC world. And in addition to that, Anthony, I believe the advancement on the controller side, we are talking about, using your apps, using your smartphones to remotely control, your HVAC system, or whether you're the property manager or you are the end user, you have the app in your phone and you can turn on your system before you enter your home or before you enter your office. And as a property manager or as a developer, you can see the energy profile. How is your building performing, your power consumption, the health, the space comfort. That will make everybody's life very easy, right in your hand.
Very good, Rana. Very good. And what I do appreciate about well, I spend more of my time in electrical, but what I can appreciate also listening to you, Rana, is in the electrical and mechanical spaces. It sounds like it's very dynamic. Things are not remotely static. They're moving forward. Uh, and just thinking back to where we started our conversation with, possibly we could use a little bit better guidance, maybe a perhaps better roadmap from the federal government all the way down to where we operate provincially and municipally. It sounds like industry is on board and has the solutions for what we need to get to net zero and definitely achieve emissions reductions. Now, whether it's by 2030 or maybe 2034, maybe we'll see where we're at with that. And maybe in 2030 we have the same discussion again and see how we did. Meantime,
I hope I won't be retired by then. Certainly, I look forward to it. Who knows, 2030 is still far, but you never know. I hope I would be around to talk to you again, Anthony. Certainly.
we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But I'll just leave that standing invitation open for now. Meantime, Harold and Rana, I do appreciate you taking the time to both comment on some of the things that were discussed in our Part One Road to 2030 discussion with some of the industry experts that we had then, and now to lend your own expertise talking about again some of the things that were discussed there, but also bringing your unique perspective and input to the conversation. Hopefully, I think to the benefit of mechanical and electrical contractors who will be watching this and reading about this, so that they know that solutions are out there. The world is moving this way. Maybe that line isn't as straight or as succinct as we would like, but it is still moving in that direction. And both Eaton and Mitsubishi Electric have people and solutions that will help everyone get there. So again, gentlemen, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts with us today.